Hey everyone, so it's Tuesday, June 13th of 2023. I'm going to be keeping a very light day today. I'm going to get the rest of my azuki beans planted, but also another task that I've decided that I should take care of today is to thin out the peaches on my peach tree. I've been going through here and looking, and I read that peaches should be thinned to about 3 for every 12 inches of branch. So I don't have too many areas of my tree that have more than that, but there are some areas. So I'm just going to be pulling out a few of these, and then my other morning task that I'm going to do is I'm going to just clear the weeds around the base of this peach tree so that it can thrive. And we'll see how it goes, but if it gets really dry, if we have another super dry period before these are ready to harvest, I may even bump a little bit of water to this tree to just try to make sure that I can get some good peaches in this year. I have not actually harvested any peaches on my property before, so I'm not sure how these peaches are actually going to come in on this early year, if they're going to be marginal or not, but I'm going to do what I can to see if I can get a little bit of a harvest off of this tree this year. That is, you know, actual good, like ripe peaches. So this is all I have gotten from this tree here. Now my tree that has got the disease issue that I'm going to have to spray for, it does not hardly have any peaches on it, so there's not really anything to thin out of here. Now one other thing that I did notice is that there was some sort of little caterpillar thing that had hollowed out a couple of my peaches, like just eaten the centers out of them, these baby peaches. So I'm going to have to keep an eye out for that. And now a lot of people say on the internet that you don't have to throw these away. You can actually pickle these, and some people pickle them and pack them in oil, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm going to bother doing that because I have such a small quantity, but I might or might not, depending how I'm feeling later, try it out just so that I know what the results are like for future years, so that I'll be more motivated to pickle these in future years. Now I'm just walking over here to my other peach tree. Well, I don't have the right shoes on for this. Now if you can see, I got some thistles with flower heads coming in over there. I've got to get my brush cutter back in here. I did just pick up some more fuel for it, and I was pretty impressed. I got that no ethanol 50 pre-mixed fuel that says it's good for long-term storage, and my brush cutter did fire up right up after having sat around for 2 years in my garage. So I was pretty impressed. I gotta also be careful not to step on any snakes, because you'd be to think that they would run away, but I actually have some really curious snakes on my property that sometimes even like to watch me and see what I'm up to. So now this peach tree here looks like it doesn't have nearly as much fruit on it. And you know, the other thing, well, I gotta make sure that other one isn't patented or anything, but the other helpful thing about having different kinds of peach trees, like this one here is actually a Reliance peach tree, is that I'm gonna be able to see how the different ones do in my area with disease resistance and how productive they are, and then kind of choose what I want to maybe sell to other people. So now, because I do have the peach disease issue, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to propagate any peach trees at all on my nursery for a little while until I get that resolved. So I'm not really seeing a need to thin this one out, and I'm not sure whether or not it's going to even put off good fruit this year. Now, one trick that you can use when you plant a new peach tree that you get at the nursery that has got some decent height to it, and I did it with another peach tree that I had previously that was sold to me that turned out not to be zone hardy, because again, I am in a kind of strange edging area of my zone where it actually gets a little bit colder here than it's supposed to. So people in just slightly different areas maybe could have gotten away with planting that peach tree, that variety, but it did not survive on my property. But one thing that you can do when you get a new peach tree is you can very aggressively prune it down, and it feels a little bit awful to do because you're basically just leaving a little bit of branches with greenery, and then you're just hacking off the top of the tree, most of the top of the tree. But what it does, and you know, I wish I would have done it to this tree before I left, is it gets the tree to focus a lot of its energy into putting in a really developed root system that will help the tree put off better fruit sooner. So we'll see how that goes. I'm wondering, you know, I'm not in a huge hurry to harvest a bunch of peaches, so maybe I'll just let this one go and just thin out some branches and things later, because it hasn't been pruned since it was put in over 2 years ago. But we'll see how it's going. While we're here, you know, I guess we can check and see how other things are coming along. Obviously, this is not how you are supposed to keep an orchard, right? I have been gone, so it's not mowed, and now my mower is broken, which is an issue I have often. But this is a pear tree of mine, and before I left, it was just putting off just tiny little fruits that, like 1 or 2 tiny fruits that fell off the tree before it ripened, and I can already see some of that fruit up there has got like a bug issue, because I do have worm issues with my apple trees because I haven't sprayed them. So if I cut out the spots on my apples, you know, I do still get a lot of use out of them. Now this is a different variety of pear tree, and this one I don't think I ever got any fruit off of before, but there's a little fruit right there coming in, and it's gonna take some time, and I have to come in and prune these to try to get them to shape out the way I want them to. But this one is not really ready, and this has been, this has maybe been in for 3 years, 4 years, maybe 4 years now. I've had this pear tree in the ground. So, and then I've got just one more tiny little fruit and another just tiny little fruit right here. Oh, so there's like 4 or 5. There's just a handful of fruits on this right now, and we'll see how it goes. Sometimes when you have trees that are going to be growing a little bit bigger, they do take a little bit longer to establish themselves. Now my apple trees that have been on the property do put off some huge apples. And I really do need to get, I don't like chemicals, but I also don't like having too many bug issues. So I'm gonna see if there's a natural solution. I think they may have some sort of more natural oil blends and things you can spray instead of chemicals. But I am gonna have to tame all this grass. I have even thought about, you know, if I had unlimited money, I would weed cloth this whole area and mulch it and make it real nice. Now the issue that I have with wood mulch is that my chickens, well, I don't have any right now, but historically my chickens love to scratch all the mulch away to the point where like my weed cloth will just be bare. And that's actually a big problem of why part of my beds have so many weeds in them. It's not that I never mulched them, it's that I spent the money to mulch them really well, and my chickens kicked all the mulch away, and I would keep trying to rake what I could back. Oh, by the way, this hardware wire, eventually it's gonna have to come off, but this was not just to protect the young tree from the weed whacker, but also to protect the young tree from the gophers gnawing away the bark. Because what you're gonna have is animals in the wintertime, they're desperate for food, and they will gnaw the bark off of your trees, okay? All the way around, and if they do that, your tree is basically going to be dead. So you don't have to just contend with the deer trying to eat your trees down. Now this, I mean, look at this. This is, I don't know if you guys can see, I'm like in my painted sweatpants right now, but this stuff is coming up to my waist, these grasses, so I really got to get in here. But this is a prune tree, and it's looking a little bit sad, even though when I bought it from the county sale, it was like quite tall. Now this one, I think technically legally, since I bought it from the county sale, I'm not supposed to propagate this. So this is kind of my personal use tree. And I am going to be buying some more European plum trees from some nurseries. I used to have multiples of some really amazing varieties, but what happened is I didn't have them caged properly. And so the deer, I had bought them bare root, and the deer would basically gnaw off every young branch. Every single young branch that came through, the deer would just gnaw off all the fresh leaves, and it killed the tree. So I've really learned that on some things, like when I'm making an investment in trees, I really got to make sure that I, first of all, because I'll tell myself things like, oh, I'm going to go get the fencing later, I'm going to go get the posts later, but I find if I do not actually have it with me when the tree comes in and it's time to plant the tree, sometimes because I'm so inundated with things that need to get taken care of, and because sometimes I have severe lapses in my health, that things that I put off I'm not able to get to energetically, I've found that I really need to just have what I need before I need it so that it's here, and then I don't have to do a long drive to go get what I need, and then to only buy the trees that I'm willing to put up the investment in adequately protecting. Otherwise, you're just throwing money away to the deer, basically. So anyways, this is all, and I'm gonna go whack the weeds down around that peach tree with my hoe, and I'll get back with you guys. So before I get any further on weeding this area, I just want to show you guys, I forget what these weeds are called. They do put off like little flowers. Like I got some spittlebug up on there, but these actually pull out really easy from the root. They don't always have roots this crazy on them, but this pulls out real easy, you know, with just some gloves on. And I've got a lot of that in here. So before I actually take my hoe in through here, I'm going to go through and pull out some of these things by hand. I just wanted to capture this area real quick before I get started, because I may decide to keep some of this stuff in here. You know, like some of it I actually really like these dainty little flowers. I feel look almost like this flower of a seed that I tried to buy that was no longer available on the website that I was trying to order from. So just in case that is actually that thing, which granted there's a lot of things with flowers like that, I might just leave those in and try to figure out what the heck they are, because a lot of things that even grow as, you know, quote unquote weeds can be very nutritious or medicinal. So we'll see how that goes. But also, I just wanted to comment, I had a little issue this morning in that I checked my email, which is not something that I do every day, and one of the first things in there was an email saying that my package had been delivered for my Water Boss 900, and I sure did not receive it. So what happened is when I tried to call the phone number in the email that Home Depot sent me saying that my package had been delivered, I got an error message saying that that cellular number was not in service, and it was an 800 number. So I don't know if this is related to the hostilities that I'm dealing with as I try to go into pseudo-retirement or what, but that happened, and then so I had to call the other carrier number, the people who has said delivered it, and they explained to me that they delivered it to the last mile carrier. So it had not been brought to my house yet, but they delivered it to the last leg carrier. But Home Depot said that my package had been delivered, and I guess this is just an error of how they've been doing things. And now besides this issue, I've noticed when I was in the city, about 1/3 of my packages would go to the wrong address. And hold on, I'm gonna wait for this truck. And then during some other periods of time, sometimes as many as another 1/3 of my packages would say they were delivered and had not been delivered. So a bunch of them were going to the wrong house, and a lot of times, the other times what was going on is that the delivery companies were running a scam saying that they had delivered the package, and then you're freaking out thinking you've been porch pirated, but then your package would arrive the next day. So, you know, even though I didn't make it, I kept forgetting to return my moldy bread situation. I'm still a little upset that I paid $4 full price for moldy bread. But it's just like, I don't know, I'm not used to having to deal with that sort of thing. So every time I've gone into town, I forgot to bring my moldy bread and try to get a refund. Because, you know, it's kind of the principle that I think that grocery stores, when they're selling you expired food and there are no negative consequences to them whatsoever, they are not motivated to fix the issue. But I was speaking to a lady the other day, and she was commenting that even at the Walmart, you know, she went and she almost bought something from the freezer section that had expired months ago. So I just want to let you guys know, I used to only have this issue with expired food at extremely low traffic grocery stores or discount grocers, never at the big box stores. But it is becoming more and more of an issue for more and more people, you know, so make sure you're checking your dates. And, you know, the other thing that used to happen is back a while ago when a company said your package had arrived, your package had actually arrived. And apparently that is just no longer the standard to which businesses are holding themselves to anymore in clown world. Okay, we are in clown world, and the things that have just become normal used to never happen. So I'm going to pull out these long weeds, but I just wanted to kind of issue that commentary that it's like, I remember how things used to be still. And a lot of the things that are just normal status quo today used to be way below the threshold of what was considered like acceptable customer service and professionalism. And it's just the new normal apparently. But I'm gonna get cracking on these weeds and we'll see how it goes. Oh, you know, the reason why I was commenting on this is because so many of my packages have also been extremely late. Some of them, I think, over a week late. And my pond liner that is going into this area and my rain chain that is going up there, I'm not upset about it because I'm not really ready for this project right now anyways, but I am not doing 2-day shipping on this. And so even my pond liner that was supposed to arrive yesterday with my rain chain has not arrived, you know, and I think I'm a kind of person where it's like I prefer the correct expectation to be set. If it's going to actually take 9 days for my package to come in, just let me know it's going to be 9 days. Don't tell me it's going to be 7 days and then make it be 9 days or 14 days or 18 days. So again, there's just this, I feel like a new standard of over-promising and under-delivering from a number of companies, and that just used to not be how it was. I guess they figured it's easier that way. You know, I don't really mind so much that this package is late. It's just that I would say that 2/3 of all of my packages since I got here have been late, and some of them by a large amount. So it's just kind of interesting to me because I'm not trying to do any rush 2-day delivery. A lot of my packages are not scheduled to arrive for like 7 and sometimes even 9 days out, and they're almost all of them are showing up late by numerous days. So I just wanted to issue that commentary because I know, you know, some people have commented to me elsewhere about being too close to the road and the zombie apocalypse, and you know, I'm not trying to treat those concerns with derision, but you know, we definitely are having some level of societal breakdown. Again, I am hoping to monetize my road situation. So we'll see how it goes. I'm actually, part of the reason why I've been accumulating landscape timbers, and see now I'm going on a long meander with this video, is because I'm going to be building some different things out of them. The really heavy wood posts that are just like the square solid wood posts, they are extremely heavy. And if I deal with a situation where one of those falls or something like that, it could not be a good situation for me. So I am going to use some of those landscape timbers to build a roadside stand for myself eventually. And then I'm going to use some of those landscape timbers to create a shade structure on my back patio. And I may accumulate some of those too to do part of a pergola for my outdoor living area that I'm working on creating. So I found that some items are more available in certain times of the years than others, and right now the Home Depot is getting palletfuls, like large shipments of landscape timbers coming in, whereas there have been times in the past when I have tried to get landscape timbers and there were none. So I'm just going to try to accumulate them. That's going to be one of my light duty kind of break day tasks for today, because I can only fit 3 in my car while still closing the trunk. So, and I do prefer to be able to close my trunk. I've transported some big things in the back of a Honda Accord before, some really tall trees and things, but I don't know. I'm just chilling with my 3 landscape timbers at a time for now. But we'll see how things go. There are some other folks in the area that sell firewood on the curbside, and they have self-service pay boxes. And there is somebody who has a fruit stand that is roadside on their property. Someone even sells fireworks roadside on their property. And I think that it would be real cute if I eventually have a nice pretty sign made for my farmstead and get a little roadside stand going here. So we'll see. I like to believe that some of the plants that I am going to be selling will practically sell themselves. And I've thought about what my sign would look like. I thought about saying like rare perennial vegetables, you know, but I'm like, well, maybe that's too much of a stretch, and maybe I should just say like uncommon perennial vegetables. Maybe that'll be enough without overselling it, but we'll see, because I don't know. I think it would appeal to a lot of people. I've been already given some plants away to some neighbors and things, and it just makes me so happy. It brings me a lot of joy. So anyways, I guess if you can't tell, I talk too much, and not even just when I'm like by myself talking to a camera. Sometimes I talk too much in general, but I'm gonna get cracking on these weeds, okay? So it's just short of noon here. The sun is getting a bit high in the sky, and it's getting a bit hot outside. I just went through and hand pulled a bunch of weeds, and then just took the hoe to the area under the peach tree real quick. And I've really been having to be careful going through here, because I used to have these shorty little cages around all the nursery plants I had put in here to help protect them from my chickens while they were really young that were scratching. But it wasn't just the deer that trampled my cages, it was also the roofers trampled my cages all over the place, and even some of my plants a little bit. I thought maybe they would have enough space through here, but you know, they work in a big hurry. But when you're going with the most affordable place, I guess that is just what you get. But and through here I do have some different plants, like, so these are actually boxwood wintergreens, and these are a taller boxwood than what I have on my frontage, and they're supposed to get 4 to 6 feet tall, and then of course I can trim these to whatever height I want them to be, because they grow real slow. But yeah, I've got some different stuff in through here, so I just had to be a little bit careful. I've got a couple of clumps of Russian sage that may or may not be getting moved later on. I've got a couple of clumps of lobelia, like I think that is one of my lobelia clumps, but I gotta look it up. And then the tag was over here And so somewhere in there I might have one pop up, but it's looking kind of rough. And now in through here, see, I've got some different stuff growing, obviously. Now the dandelions, I am gonna let those go because I'm gonna harvest those roots later. I do have some chicory in through here, and those put down really deep roots, so if I want to get rid of those proper, I'm gonna have to dig them up. I've got some lilies that are gonna come up. Now also in through here, I have a lot of plantain on my property in general. So this is the narrow leaf plantain, and that is edible. It is an edible perennial vegetable that grows as well as a weed, which is not a bad thing. So I'm trying to look for one of the broad-leafed plantains for those of you who aren't familiar. So here in between my hostas is a broadleaf plantain, and they put off slightly different kinds of flowers, but they're both edible. And I like plantains so much, plantango, that I actually ordered some fancy looking variegated plantango seeds. I'm just going to take you out through my yard. Now this hasn't been mowed in quite a while. I'm very blessed that they put short grasses in through here in the front yard. And so even though my friend was helping take care of this, I myself generally do not mow my front yard very short because it does scorch when we get too much heat in, and then I let these go. These are the plantain flowers. See, in this one, it even just has a little tiny plant here, and it's putting off this flower. Somebody once showed me a tropical tree thing that has flowering clumps that are like this, except super massive, almost like the size of a person. But the people before me have seeded a lot of clover in through here, and I've gone through and seeded more clover. And what I did one year is I went around and I just harvested a massive amount of plantain seeds. I mean, it was a lot. They don't weigh a whole lot, but it was like a medium-sized like Ziploc bag full of them. And I went through and I broadcast seeded them in different parts of my property. Because not only are they people food, but they're excellent bee food. And one of my neighbors, even though he's kind of crazy and tried to steal an acre of my land, he raises bees. So I'm very blessed to have a lot of bees from what he raises, as well as just normal bees. I've got like 10 different kinds of bees. Now my boxwoods here are going to be growing shorter. Obviously I have so much work to do. But I guess before I meander too long, I actually have some boxwoods up through here. But these autumn olives have just grown so much since, because I had whacked these down pretty good, have grown so much since I put in those boxwoods. And then I've actually decided that what I'm probably going to do eventually when I have the trees propagated for myself is I'm going to take out all these autumn olives, because for me, it's, even though my chickens love them and the wild birds love them, they are an invasive in this area, and for me it doesn't benefit me at all. But I do like this kind of screen hedge. People can't really see my house, my patio very well, and you wouldn't even know that I have a big old nasty sleeper couch on my front porch right now driving by in the summertime. Okay, so I do like having a little bit of privacy, because when I get this area mowed super nice, which I can't do right now with my busted mower, I get a lot of looky-loos since we've had more traffic, and they like to slow down and just like admire my frontage when I have it, you know, really in shape. But I've decided that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plant this area, because there's a ditch here. So above, you know, the ditch, I got to be careful to not hit the area where, like, I might even put them lower in the ditch. I got to also keep them away from where the salted snow is going to go in winter. But I'm going to plant plum trees, a row of plum trees here, right by the road. And some people are going to say, well, lady, people are just going to rob your plums. And I already know that. And you know, when I was a little girl, there have been a couple moments when I myself have pilfered a little bit of fruit and a little bit of sweet corn. And again, I think some people take a survivalist hoarder mentality, but I am really in a place where I want to kind of push more of a thrivalism mentality, and a mentality of being able to create abundance. And I want to also help empower other people to create abundance. So, you know, eventually when I get my plum line going, what's going to happen is they're going to see all this ripe fruit, by the road, they're going to see that I'm selling plants next to the road. You know, I'm going to put them on Facebook Marketplace and things like that. But I'm not so sure how much internet sales I'm going to be doing because, again, I have some health problems and I don't know that I can manage the internet sales. Maybe if I got to a place where my local sales were enough that I could actually hire somebody, maybe I would think about it, doing the online sales. But, you know, it doesn't look like much, but I'm excited. Now, because of my chickens scratching, and even if I put a little short fence to keep the ducks out of this area and the geese out of this area, my chickens will just be able to hop that shorty fence. And they'll be scratching all through here. So what I want to do when I have the money, which is going to take just a little while, is I want to order a big old gravel truck, like a whole truckload of gravel to use as mulch. And this front area with the boxwoods, and now these Russian sages may be getting moved in the fall time because I just kind of plopped them in there years ago because I needed a place to put them and I loved the plant. And I also had a feeling that maybe this place would get weeds later. I wanted them to be easy to find, my Russian sages. So eventually I'm going to probably do a section of weed cloth here in the frontage of this bed that is going to go all the way down to this dwarf evergreen that I think is going to grow 6 to 8 foot tall or so, maybe 12 foot tall. I can't remember on that one. I got to go find the tag inside. So there's going to be that, and then this area here is going to be my pond, and the pond might tuck in behind this. Now I've got these dogwoods, and we do have some dogwood disease issues, but I have these grown by the house, and it's not good. So I think, I don't know what that thing is. Is that a variety of willow? But I've got to whack these things down, get them away from my foundation. Previously, I've had some catalpa trees that have sprouted back here that I've been able to actually dig up and put into pots, but it looks like most of my potted catalpa trees have been taken as well. Now, that was one thing that I did tell the person who I think robbed me that he could actually have if he wanted, because he seemed interested, you know? And so this big one is the one that is left, but I used to have 4 or 5 potted catalpa trees that kind of volunteered themselves back in here that were in pots, and now this thing is growing this big and is this lush, and it's kind of in the shade, which helps it out, but it's been in this pot for years and it's still growing this well. So this is actually, this shaded cool area is a nice place for me to put kind of more vulnerable plants to heat stress and things like that. Now, when I planted these peach trees on the south side of the house, it was because my neighbor across the way, who unfortunately has passed away while I was out of town, he gave me a book that was published and written decades ago about like farmsteading, you know, a small acreage holding, kind of like what I have here. It's like, you know, I don't have 40 acres, but I have more than enough acreage for myself to do quite a bit with. And I read through this book that he gave me, and it said that what you can do with peach trees is you plant them on the north side of the house, and you put them in an area where during the like early season, the trunks are still in the shadow of the house. And then what ends up happening is the trunk of the tree comes out of hibernation later in the season, and it puts the trees put out flowers later in the season, so that your trees are going to be less likely to lose all the flowers to frost, to a late frost, and then end up not giving you any fruit at all that year. So that's where I put these two, and then I do have the one out in the orchard. Peach trees, sometimes they don't bear a whole lot of fruit for too long. Sometimes people say a peach tree, like in an orchard anyways, is good for only like 10 years. So occasionally you do have to plant some new ones. But I put these here. I thought that would be pretty. You know, I thought they would give me just a little bit of beauty and a reminder of abundance as I pull into the driveway here during the right time of year and that sort of thing. And I do eventually want to add some more peach trees. I might put some in that ditch with the plum trees. I do, in my little corner here, want to add just like a little bit of fruit trees right in there. I'm going to add probably a black beauty mulberry right in here. That's going to be kind of a shorty. this tree is extremely old and not in good condition, and eventually one day it will have to get cut down. That day is not here yet, but eventually one day it's going to have to get cut down, and I do want to have a nice tree in my front yard, so I've been deciding on where should I plant the next tree that will one day, you know, maybe 15 years, 20 years from now, be a beautiful little shade tree for my front area. You really got to plan ahead on the tree situation. So anyways, I'm meandering. This is just I don't rehearse these, I don't edit these videos. I'm just trying to capture what I've got going on for posterity, for whatnot, for anybody that's curious. Oh, there goes a big one. But yeah, I am gonna go to the Home Depot here soon. I'm gonna wait until the sun has cooled down a bit to get started with my Azuki beans. Now, I've debated on whether I should just get a bag of mulch for now for this peach tree. I think I'm going to go ahead and do it because my chickens don't come in until end of July, and then they're going to have to grow up a little bit. So, although eventually I'm going to want to mulch this in gravel, I am going to slowly amend this soil with more sand as time goes on because it makes it easier to pull the weeds. And I find it really satisfying to pull weeds out of sandy soil. I don't know why, but I find it really satisfying. So I'm just gonna have the weed cloth up front here. And in this back area, I'm gonna end up popping in some of my perennial herbs. It's gonna be a little bit more naturalized. Some of these things, like these lilies, may get moved. I really was at a point where I was trying to get things in the ground. And then some future fall, I could transplant them, and you know, then I ended up taking off for 2 years that I hadn't initially planned for when I just plopped some of these things in the ground. So for example, in this crazy area, I gotta find out what these are, because I feel like I've seen these before, and like, I don't know, a lot of these things I'm not just gonna dig up. I gotta figure out what I got going on first, because like, what's the point of digging up a plant if it's something that like I would have wanted to like get seeds for and plant myself? But what I've got going on here is, well, first of all, I had a little baby blueberry bush and a little tiny baby twig of a goji berry bush that I had this whole bed weeded real good, and I needed just a place to put these into until that fall. And then I ended up leaving, and what's happened is this goji berry bush has been taken over my deck. So eventually one day it's going to give me a lot of cuttings. But when I finish out this deck, which my liquid rubber is one of those things that is super late on delivery, but you know, part of it is it looks like my cage got trampled is what has set my goji berry all crooked. Maybe when this thing got thrown over here. Now this little downspout that got tossed over here, the chipmunks on my property love running through it, and I feel like it gives them a little bit of Josephine protection. So, I don't know, even after I put up my rain chain, I might find a place to tuck that little downspout, because for some reason, man, the chipmunks just love running through there. It's like, I don't know, like a playground or something. So, even though we had that tragedy where one of our Mr. Chipmunks got smashed in the road, I have like a whole family of them now, and Josephine does harass them and has unfortunately been stacking bodies like cordwood. I just had to pull up a whole bunch of corpses off of the ground and put them on my compost pile earlier today. Just dead mice that were just left, headless gophers, all that sort of thing. So there's been a great deal of violence occurring out here. But anyways, this behind these wild raspberries and all this tall grass is my compost pile that is not super big and will be getting bigger with these weeds. And then again, I have my worm bin that I've put some dried grass and my kitchen scraps in. Some of my kitchen scraps will eventually be going to my chickens and things like that. But for now, all of that, my coffee grounds, I use a French press, so my coffee grounds and the kind of dregs of the water that are left in my French press go in there. And I saw that the Walmart in town by where the big hardware store is sells worms. So I'm gonna run in and get some worms before or after, I guess after I get my landscape timbers today to get my worm bin going again. So this video is super long. I'm just gonna let you guys go now. Thanks.